Hi there, Bruce Kingsley from BruceKModelTrains.com, here to do an update on my Ultimate DCC Throttle. On this video, I'm going to do some things a little bit differently. One of the items I really wanted to do, and probably would have had this video out sooner, but really didn't come up with a really good solution, and that was a way of capturing the incredibly better quality of the camera mounted on the railroad that I see on the monitor. And since I'm using a video camera to capture video, there is incredible loss of quality. If you do see the my video 14B is probably the best one. It's short. That I actually was able to record directly, and so you could see more of what I see. But even that was done before I was able to complete the final adjustments to the camera. So that's unfortunate. The other thing I'm going to do differently in this video is I'm going to not tripod my camera that I do the video with. This camera I'm using has fairly good stabilization, so I'm going to be hand holding it, and that will give the opportunity for you to see the controls quicker. There is a little bit of a disadvantage that as the camera goes up and down and sees the monitor, my camera will be readjusting for the the light differences. But through some different experimenting, I found that it seemed to give the best overall look. So let's start covering what we will be looking at that's new on this update to this very elaborate project I've been working on. So let's start with the basics of my layout. It's HO gauge, it's 4 by 7 feet, and it's DCC powered. I use the Digitrack DCS 100 series command station, and I have it integrated with the JMRI computer system, which I use for custom scripting and other special effects that are specifically designed to communicate with the throttle. I have multiple DCC accessory boards. On the right side, under the layout, I have my occupancy detection, which is a count of 32, and my controls power for all my tortoise turnouts, which I have 8. On the left side, I have a electronics panel which has most of the signal controllers and also all my accessories controllers, which is powered by an Arduino and goes to up to 32 relays that enable me through either JMRI or the throttle to turn on numerous special effects. All together is powered by a bank of laboratory grade power supplies that are used to power both the layout and all the electronics that are on the layout. Now, what goes down the track and captures my actual layout is made up of 3 rolling stock components. First is the camera and sensor car. Second is the HDMI video transmitter that sends out the 1080p at 30 frames per second. And then lastly is what I call the DCC pusher, which is a locomotive power that, as the name implies, is what actually propels the assembly down under the controls of the Ultimate Throttle computer system. On the camera assembly, we got a lot of activity going on. The heart of it is my proprietary 1080p camera also is collections of sensors, both tilt and accelerometer for vibration detection. On the front, there is a coupler that is remote control actuated, and plus a impact sensor, so when we're actually coupling we can detect it. Both front and rear trucks have sensors that detect how much rotation they are for the squeal. There is a DCC powered power supply that powers the whole assembly, an Arduino Micro that collects all the information from the sensor and sends that via an XB device. This image right here shows the rear of the camera Locomotive with the XB on the top right, electronic board for driving, the uncoupler to the left. The Arduino Micro is actually sitting behind it. On the right below it is the power supply for the whole assembly, and on the back side of it is a large bank of supercapacitors. Both this car and the HDMI transmitter have a large count of supercapacitors to keep it from tripping the circuit breaker on the DCC layout. They are slowly charged, and it's around 10 minutes before the system can actually be used. On the front, you can see the coupler impact sensor, as well as a high-intensity headlight, as well as the actuated uncoupler system, all under remote control. Without a doubt, one of the most significant innovations that I was able to implement this last year was a totally new camera. And what my goal was to break kind of the rules of how you can get extended focus. As you can see in this screen right here, everything that's pretty much right in front, as you can see the man on the right is in focus, all the way to the end of my layout where the trees are. Let's kind of review the challenge behind that. For those of you that are into macro photography, understand the challenges with dealing with depth of field. Fortunately, with still photography, changing f-stop and exposure time, including the benefits of software for doing like stack focusing, you can really extend that range on what is in focus. With video, though, we have another problem. We don't have the benefits as we do in still photography, based off the fact that we're limited by the frames per second. And so you have the phenomena of either having your in focus point right up to the camera, and then as soon as you have something in the distance, it becomes out of focus, or the other way around. You pull it, change the focal point, and that becomes focus, and you have a farther focal point. On my old throttle, I had it set to about 6 inches, so it would have a reasonable focus length from that to the end of my layout. On top of that, the quality of picture is typically driven a lot also by the size of the sensor size to get as much light and information in. And when I'm presenting my image on my large monitor, what might look like a great picture on a small computer monitor or so forth doesn't on my screen. I can see all the grain and so forth. So I really need the benefit of a larger sensor. And so in the case of my new camera, I kind of had to work with so many things going against me. The sensor on it is actually a 4K sensor. Not that I'm actually recording in 4K, but I needed it for the fidelity of it. And then equally having to make the modifications to get the focal that I wanted. So the modifications essentially changed the way the focus is actually done. And I guess what I mean by that is I didn't necessarily extend the focus range. What I did is I changed what it focused on, which ultimately means in regular use, the camera would be absolutely useless, as it is redesigned for a very specific area of focus, but in my case, of what is important. So back to the image of my new camera. Again, you can see what's right in front of the camera is in focus, and then all the way to the mountains are in focus. Now, this did come at another obscure problem. Actually, what you're seeing right in front of you, you would never be able to see. So what this required me to do, and it wound up giving another, I'll say a cool effect, is I wound up deciding to mask the area that you shouldn't be able to see. And I did that by creating an F7 nose to be overlaid. And even so, when you're in an F7, unless you're standing up, you can't really see the nose. I said, who cares? The problem I had is I was playing with different overlays, and it became incredibly time-consuming to find the proper location to place the nose, so when you were sitting in the cab in the seat, it actually looked, we'll say, right, because if you got up and moved left or right, it would look wrong. So I first created a 3D model of the nose using a 3D program, and then I created a program to run actually on the cab itself that would enable me to move that model around until it looked the way I wanted it to be. Once I got that positioned, I went back to my desktop computer, positioned it as it was on the cab, and then did the texturing effect on top of that. And then it became the new overlay that I could equally go and change the way it was illuminated, from daytime to sunset to nighttime, where it would just cast a shadow from the lights from the inside. And while I was at it, I played around with some other overlay effects, including birds flying across, and just for my own interest, even so I wasn't doing steam locomotives, I wanted to see what it would look like to have like steam protruding around the front of it. I'm sorry, but I am not going to be sharing actually how this camera was made. A lot of it is just because of the amount of time I spent working on this and the cost it was. But on top of that, it does require the use of, just starting off with a fairly expensive camera, and then resulting in you actually disassembling the camera and removing its sensor, modifying part of the sensor, the lens arrangement, which requires incredible, care, clean room type of environment, and very precision positioning. Certainly very easy to go and destroy a multi-$100 camera in a heartbeat. Certainly if you're into photography or do research on optics and optic effects, you too could do this, or have a camera manufacturer or somebody who's into it make that same type of modification. Back to my layout, one of the things that I completely redid was the signals. All my previous signals I removed and replaced them with signals equally that look like the style that Western Pacific used, and spent a little bit more time in their placement, though in reality it is over signaled, if you will, as this small layout has a total of 18 signals. In addition, I was very pleased with the results of a wigwag crossing signal that was, I will say, incredibly challenging, as I did not want to have it actuated by a little wire or cable under the layout that was making it swing. So with an aid of a microscope and only a couple of millimeter motor that are actually used within cameras, I modified it to operate in the same manner that actually a real wigwag would operate. So during my last video that I did the details of it, I started off in my engine house, and I thought I'd do that again, help show kind of the difference in the clarity of this. First thing I'm going to be doing is purging the cylinders. And we'll start her up.
Yeah, without an engine start, we gotta wait for the engine to turn down before we can do engine restart. Over.
If we were in a situation where we're using the system to be a passenger train, before leaving the station, we would use the radio to request from dispatch approval actually to leave the station. Dispatch approval for departure, over.
Dispatch to WP 913. We need you to hold there for a second. We're waiting for another train to pull into a siding. Over.
So that kind of response is random as far as if they'll let you go or not, and even how long it'll take for it to come back. Now, if the system actually detects a train that's actually really in our path, it's no longer random, and it will continue.
Dispatch to WP 913. That train is now cleared. You are now cleared for departure. I'll make an announcement over the intercom. Over.
If there was a real train, we would be in a situation where we could continue to request what the status is if there was if the system actually detected a train actually in our path. So now that we gotten the all clear,
Okay, you can proceed to depart the station. Over.
so one of the things I wanted you to take a note of is when we go up to this curve up here, you'll notice it's starting to pick up that we're making the angle, and we're going to start hearing some of the flange squeal as the sensors pick up that the loco's trucks are starting to rotate here. Sound and does that based on how fast we're going too. And slow her down here. So you had about 3 different things going on there. We had everything from me putting the brakes on hard and squealing, and picking up us rocking the locomotive accelerometer, and both the curve squeal. I'm going to do this slowly backwards. It makes a different sound when we're going really slow. Like this little kid here over here on the side here, like in this case, there is another locomotive in front of us. Where are we on being able to continue on dispatch?
Dispatch to WP 913. Continue holding.
So you can see there in the distance the locomotive that we're waiting for. We also get the throttle goes and creates the sound of the passing locomotive once it detects it passing us. So now that the loco has passed, now it went and told us that we can carry on. So the purposes of using this for like an operations type scenario, if you want to know where you are, I can go and ask the radio dispatcher where we are. Dispatch, what is our location? Over.
Southwest Silverdale, next to Old Cabin.
Yeah, so it always knows where we're at. So we're going to get to a point here where there's a train up ahead. Actually, the reason why we got that stopped is that turnout up ahead has been thrown. Now, with the radio, without having to go back out to the layout, I can go and turn that myself here.
Dispatch to WP 913. You're now cleared to proceed. Signal at probationary speed. Over.
So I kind of killed two birds with one stone there. And the turnout now is clear, and we got a dispatch that we can proceed on now as well. I can validate that by checking with the radio. Are we clear?
10-4.
Yep. So equally, if I don't remember, if they told me if I can go through, I can always go and re-ask. So I have had some people asking about the actual throttle mechanism. It has an interlock on here, and you can hear it clicking. It picks up you pulling on it, but it keeps you from just immediately going all the way. See, I can't pull it right now. It keeps you from just ripping it all the way to higher notch. There's a button there too that enables you to go up, and so you're essentially notching it up like that, all the way up to notch 8. But it will let you go all the way down to back down to idle. So now I've added some cars to this, so the locomotive is actually going to have to work. So I'm going to be fighting between wheel slippage and picking up some of the coupler slack as we start moving forward here. Hear that? Slipping now. Once I get the slack out of this thing, I'll be able to move forward. It's constantly recalculating how many cars we take the slack up before it lets us start rolling. At least now we got some rolling going. Yeah, I'm barely moving, but I'm really pulling some amps here, trying to get this thing going. Slipping again. Well, you can see the crossing guard closing. One of the things I don't know if you heard in all that chaos of sound was since I had a lot of cars on this, they all kind of ran into the back of us while I was stopping so hard, putting it into emergency. So I'm going dangerously fast here. I'm going to go and use the dynamic brakes here. We're going over 40 miles an hour here. Wait till we get to this straightaway here. This is almost nauseating. Okay, just engage it. There they go. It's going to keep on going. We're pulling a lot more amps now. Once we get the speed down below 10 miles an hour, I mean, I could be putting the brakes on, but I'm going to let it go on its own until we get below 10, and then it'll kick off by itself. Current's going down. It's below 10. There it goes. Amp meter dropped off. That really, that and the emergency brake really kind of shakes this house. So I've also turned on the environmental effects. Of course, you never really hear them in a real locomotive. But as we go past different locations, we kind of hear the sounds of that environment. Hear the seagulls. Look at the wigwag up here as we pass it. That's a real wigwag motor going there. lights of the cab. One of the characteristics of the camera, of course, is auto light adjustment, so it brightens everything up. When I go and turn the headlight on, you can see how much illumination I really do get with it. It just, the camera readjusts for it, so that's why my little workshop area around it looks more illuminated than it really is. Guide us into this tight area.
Dispatch to WP 913, I'll be telling you when to stop, over. Dispatch to WP 913, I'll be telling you when to stop, over.
So that's my update for this year. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments or even requests for some better or more detailed footage of specific elements of this ever-growing project, just leave a comment, and I'll either get back to you, or I will try to include it in any future videos. Thanks for watching.